All right, Roy Matz, welcome, man. If you guys do not know Roy has been very busy for the last few years interviewing a ton of sync licensing professionals, everything from composers to library owners to supervisors. And Roy has a really unique position here in that he has had a front row seat to the minds of many different players in our industry, much more than I have ever interviewed on my channel. So my goal with Roy today is to extract all of that wisdom he has gained selfishly through his podcast, which is called Sync Gems. You guys can go check it out. I'll put the links down below. It's on YouTube, and he also has it on all the podcast apps. And I want to pick his brain and find out exactly what he's learned and also how his perception of sync licensing has changed since he discovered it many, many years ago. In fact, we were just talking that he said he discovered sync licensing through my YouTube channel, which is kind of cool. But I'm really curious now, many years on, how have things changed? So, Roy, man, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your time today. Why don't we start at the beginning? How did you discover sync, and where were you in your music career, and what was it about sync that was intriguing to you from the get-go?
So, yeah, Jesse, thanks for having me on. I'm so appreciative and so happy to be here with you. And so, I guess my story doesn't differ that much from you, aside from I wasn't touring the world. So I was trying to figure out my lane because I would say I thought I was a rapper, but I was becoming one. Like I was in the making, and I was basically willing to do anything to push through. And there was like a belief in me that I need to make music for a living, like a knowing almost. And I didn't know at that point how I'm gonna do it. So I was editing podcasts for people, for other people. That's how I got into podcasting myself. But that was my bread and butter. And then I was like, damn, I'm I just want to do music. And then I literally wrote from desperation on YouTube. I wrote how to make music, how to make money from music. And I saw your video. And then I went into the rabbit hole. You had a bunch of videos out there, and next thing I knew, I was in your community. I was collabing with people, but I was also watching your reviews, which were fascinating to me. Seeing how you approach libraries from your end. And again, like I said on my podcast, I just appreciated the authenticity, the realness that you brought forward, because that's how I want to be. And that was the first time that I saw it without a facade, without trying to be someone, without peacocking, like dressing like somebody and being somebody else and all that kind of stuff, which you have a lot of in the industry, in the music industry. Um, I just wanted to know kind of the nuts and bolts, I guess, and then I made an album for a company called with APM. Uh, they're called Bibliotech. They're amazing. They're really cool guys, and they took a chance on me, just like your beginning. They took a chance on me. They heard potential. They were like, "Oh, he can play guitar really well. Let's do an EP with like trap guitars." I was like, whoa, that sounds interesting. Moody trap guitars, whatever. Went into it, made something really niche, really unique, really like hip hop with guitars. Um, and after a few revisions, I gave it to them. Never heard back from it. Once in a while, I got and then that was kind of it for me. I maybe put in a few more tracks in another library, but that was it for me. I was like, man, what can this do for me? And after about 2, 3 years, I started receiving royalties, like really consistent royalties from this, like $200, $300, and that's from 4 tracks, mind you, 4 tracks, $300, $200, $300, just like real consistently. And I was like, well, I mean, okay, it's another $1,000 a year, but like I didn't even see at that moment how much of a potential it has, and the fact that I've made 4 tracks and they've already made me more music than all my Spotify music combined has made me. That didn't even strike me, but it struck me when I moved here to Bali, I live in Bali now, and I moved to Bali while pandemic hit, and I was like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? Suddenly I sit on the bed and I get this royalty check from BMI, and I have a different feeling in my body. I don't know what it is. It was just like a weird, maybe it was a weird morning, maybe I had to go to the toilet. I don't know. But it was just like a weird feeling. I um I opened the BMI statement and I see 6 grand. And I'm like, oh, what? Like they must be mistaken. There must be some sort of an error here. There must be something weird. And I look into it, and what happens is sometimes, especially with a company like BMI that collects fast from the States and Canada, they have like a backlog, and with the cue sheets from the world, it's like it takes them a long time still to this day. I don't know what they need to do to solve this, but still to this day, it takes it a long time to arrive. And what happened was my music was performing in some French show. And it was apparently a good placement. I still, till this day, don't know exactly where it was. Um, and I just saw two of the tracks in the EP were just like killing, slaying it, and making me that huge payday. And I was like, man, that was fuck you money for me at the time. Like that was for me like holy moly. Like what was I doing all these years? And so since then, I just got full did another one with Bibliothèque, like a full album from for myself, and then just like got in super deep, decided that I was so far. I was in I'm in Bali. All my clients are in either in Europe or in the States. Most of them in the States. I had to create some form of a way to communicate with these people because I'm so far physically and I don't have the money to travel to them. So that was the beginning of Sig Gems, and that's a fast forward. I've collaborated with so many of my guests and have been a part of so many albums because of the podcast, and also provided opportunities for other people to get in on me with albums with stuff like Universal or BMG or these things that I've started creating for myself. I started bringing my close people up with me, which has been amazing, and it's still happening. So that's where I'm at today.
Beautiful, man, and congrats on, pretty great results very early on in your career. And it's so funny how many times I hear that story of the producer that gets into sync, drops some tracks off the library, okay, when's the payday come? I don't know. And oftentimes the producer walks away from the business or is just not that hot about it. And then one day it's like, ding, wait, what? Wait, what? I got money from that, and it's like this beautiful, wonderful surprise. And then a lot of times it's like, all right, I got to get back into that. Like that was actually working. So it's so funny how it's just it's a very common story, and you're one of the few that had such a pleasantly surprising royalty check. A lot of producers are still, obviously, at this point as we're speaking, grinding it out and waiting for that first one. So as you remember, it's hard, taking a long time to wait for those things to show up. So that's great that you saw those results. And one thing I think is really smart about what you're doing is with your podcast, with these conversations, putting them out online, is you're sort of creating your network rather than sort of showing up at events with a cold drink and trying to shake hands with people in the room. You're just generating your own network organically by just reaching out to people and to say, hey, I got a podcast. You want to come on? And most people are really flattered to go on a podcast, and it's just like a cool invitation. Most people don't get that every single day. And it strokes the ego a bit. People feel really flattered by it. And so by you doing that and giving somebody a little bit of a shine and spotlight on your show, you're opening up, as you said, these collaboration opportunities, maybe even into new publishers and new libraries, maybe even supervisors that you wouldn't have had before. So I think that's really, really intelligent of you. And it's, one of those things where if we go back to 2008, you didn't have to have a MySpace account to do sync licensing. You didn't have to have anything social media to do sync licensing. You could just make music, send it to your library, and be an anonymous ghost on the internet. Those days are kind of gone now. It's like you do
Yes.
have an identity online, you do have a brand, and the more you use that as a tool and an asset and leverage that for your advantage, then the better you're going to be. So it sounds like you have figured that out very, very intelligently with your podcast. That's really cool. So I want to talk now about your perspectives and your perception of the industry. So from when you got in, and what your expectations were to now, what are we at, like 8 years in, 7 years in, something like that. How has your perceptions shifted, also based on all these conversations you've had with a variety, people that you've talked to? Have you become more excited about Sync's future, more cautiously optimistic, more pessimistic? And it's okay to be completely honest about exactly where you are. Obviously, AI kind of sprung into all of our lives a couple years ago, so that's obviously something we're a little concerned about. But how has you, if you can kind of trace your evolution of the perception of the industry from before you were in it to getting in it to where you are now?
Okay, so first of all, I get inspired by people who are in the industry, and that's my way of speaking to you and to people in the industry is through the podcast. But like I mainly don't listen to musicians. Like I don't the people who I consume are like I mean I'm reading Ryan Holiday's book right now, like one of his books again for the second time. So I'm like I'm consuming things um that are also uh, um not to do with music, but that they apply to music in a certain way because of the mindset, right? Because I love mindset stuff, like you were saying about yourself. So what I want to say is that if people know, like, I don't know if as of now I think as of now it's correct, but Drake's main income isn't even music. And that's important to understand. Like that person is a millionaire for music, but that's not where he makes most of his money. So just like to put it in, it's just to put it in perspective. Like a lot of people who are successful in music, they create other things from the success they have. So that's kind of the runway that I see for myself. I want to create that trail of breadcrumbs for me that is stemmed from music, but it's not the end all be all. Like I would love to have a dog shelter, and it's not going to be a huge profit, but like there are things that I want to do with my life that are way bigger than music. I want to have children one day. I want to do these things that are bigger. And where that meets music is, to me, music is it's an amazing facility of creativity, but it's also the instrument in which I see other dreams coming true, and other ways of me giving back coming true. That's what keeps me lit in a way. Because man, as you were saying before we got on the interview, man, music can be like it is it's a hard thing to persevere because it takes time until you get acknowledged, you know? Like it took me so long to actually to somebody ask me to go on their stuff because again, I thought I was a good rapper because people gave me, acknowledged me, like saw me, not for what I was, but what they saw that I could become. And at that point I wasn't good, but from that point until people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I'll pay you upfront and also back end for my library track," which people do a lot these days with me. It's 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 insane. It's insane to me. So what I want to speak to is where I'm at is where people are starting to acknowledge me, but it's because I've done so much legwork, and that's what people miss today with all this shiny object thing and that we see in social media. And me too. I have to literally I limited my Instagram consumption. You can limit it as low as 15 minutes. Come on, Instagram, you can go lower. But to me, I want to go like about 10 minutes a day, even, and even less, because I see myself getting consumed by all this shiny object thing. And I don't know if this answers your question, but I feel like people like me, they tend to put their blinders on and go straight, which is necessary sometimes, but opening up for other opportunities is what got me the head start that I got, because I opened my eyes and saw, oh man, like um audio branding is a thing. Audio branding is amazing. And I suddenly fell in love with it. So I did it for a year straight for an agency, and they loved my work and I loved working with them, and that was awesome. So I opened myself to these opportunities, which, yeah, maybe it doesn't provide me with the six-figure royalties, but it provides me with experiences that I could have not gotten otherwise.
Very, very, another very smart answer for sure. And yes, definitely, I hear what you're saying there, because it's kind of this thing where, you know, I can tell people who follow this channel, this is how I worked with libraries. This is what my thought process was. This is how many tracks I made per week on average. This is how I was sort of navigating these waters and upping my catalog to make royalties. But I try to always point out, as just as often, your journey will be completely different, and you're going to see different
Yes.
opportunities. You're going to see different avenues. You're going to be exposed to different things that I probably didn't see, because I got started in another era and I worked for different companies, and I'm a different human being. And so it sounds like you have definitely become more flexible as time has gone on, to not be just married to the one particular, you know, thing. I make production music. I send to the library. They send me, you know, royalties. I get consideration fees, sync fees, right? And I think that's very, very smart, especially in the age of AI and these new tools coming online. It was just announced in the last couple of weeks that Source Audio is going to be fully embracing an AI platform and allowing us to basically upload music to a service that's going to use AI tools to remix some of our music and provide stems and get alt mixes and do all kinds of things to our music. And so if somebody is just being very rigid of like, I'm just going to do it this way, I'm not going to adapt to these AI tools, then absolutely it becomes very, very daunting to keep up with this industry and to potentially miss out on really interesting opportunities that might be right around the corner. One of these analogies I used when AI popped up was, we're all kind of like, you know, mining for gold here in our river for these, you know, sync nuggets, right? Or sync gems,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
meanwhile, there might be a mountain of diamonds literally off in the distance, right? And that might be, I don't know if it is, but it might be what AI provides us. There might be brand new industries, opportunities, companies, who knows, that spring up, applications that spring up, that we can apply our expertise and our skills to, probably also in addition to learning new things. So it sounds like you've definitely become much more attuned to learning new skills. And like you said, it doesn't matter necessarily if, you know, sonic branding becomes your full-on career. You're going to take everything you learn from all these different experiences that you expose yourself to, and you will bring them with you to your next gig and to your next journey. You're going to either, even if you don't take the direct skills, you will take that confidence of like, you know what, I just did something I didn't know how to do before. I kind of sucked at it, then I got better at it, and then I became like a master at it. Well, here's a new thing that I don't know yet. I got this too. So it's more about also building the confidence that like we can jump into the deep end every so often, and we can learn how to swim just kind of by jumping in and doing it. So I think that's very, very wise of you to do that. I want to wrap this one up by asking you, in terms of your perception of this industry from being, you know, if you can go back to your younger self as a newbie to where you are now, somebody who might be watching this video right now, let's say that they were 2016, 2017 Roy, right? Just learning about sync, maybe just found my channel or just found your podcast,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, cool, sync, I think that might work out for me. Are there any points of indication that you could give somebody to say, either if you do this and this and this, jump in, give it a shot, you might do well. But if you are more interested in this and this and this, probably is not going to be a good fit for you. Are there any sort of like clear divisions in the sand, lines in the sand, that you can, at this point in your career, go, I can kind of tell who's going to really do great in this, and I can tell who's going to really struggle with it?
Mm. Whew. So a big red flag for me would be people who are going too quick, too fast. So that's a huge red flag. If I was Roy 2017, I would be still skeptic, which I was. But I would keep leaning into that skepticism, because um uncomfortable situations is where we grow. And you talking about your kid on on your kids on my podcast, this is your means of growth. That's what I heard. People need to lean into where they grow. If you don't grow in sync, don't lead into sync. If you're doing it for the money grab, definitely don't do sync, for sure. and and in the end of the day, remember that your network is your net worth. I want to say all these things that people say to me in the podcast, like the industry is so small. Be careful, all these kinds of things. I just don't move like that. I feel like I make mistakes because I need to make mistakes. Don't walk on eggshells because somebody told you that somebody will cancel you. Like, be respectful, but also be you. Because people see, like, Jesse gets 2,000 emails a day going, "Hey, Jesse, hope you're doing well." It's like, me too. Like, people who get these emails every day can see when somebody is being real and when somebody's just like doing it for something. And the podcast was really helpful for me because it enabled me to get in touch with these people and just connect with their soul before I even get to connect with them on a working level. And then like the work is obvious later. Like I've literally commissioned an album lately because one of my guests was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Can you send me that album again?" Yeah. Okay, got you. And then he's gonna send the contract when he's gonna send the contract. So like, what I want to say is, if you're feeling that this is overwhelming you quickly, and you're like in your first year, you're doing something wrong. You need to go back to the drawing board. You need to enjoy the making of music. And I'm saying that to myself because sometimes I also don't enjoy making music, and I have to go for 5 days to God knows where to just like breathe for a few days, just because I'm looking at screens all day. So just like, I would say to myself, remember what really matters, and what really matters and has proven from 3,000 years ago till today. Community is everything. Tribe is everything. People are everything. Um, yeah, that would be. Again, I don't know if I'm giving your listeners what they want to hear, but yeah, this is not a short road. This is not a quick thing. And just like investing in stock markets, it doesn't take one day, but when it compounds in the end, it just creates something that is beautiful, that can sustain you, that can sustain a family, that can sustain so many things. And when you take this mindset and apply it to other things, like again, like the stock market, like in something you want to invest in, like you take it to other places, then you're no more in this situation of, oh my God, AI is coming. What am I gonna do? You know what I mean? Because you got a system of really cool people who can support you. So yeah, that's my
Beautiful.
rant.
Love it, man. Yeah, and I can't agree more. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. I think we can definitely both agree that has got to be the top priority for sync licensing. Well, Roy, man, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today. Again, guys, if you want to go watch like over 100 interviews with literally most of the biggest players in the industry, decision makers, click on the link below. Go subscribe to his channel. Go subscribe to his podcast. Check out some great interviews he's had over the last couple of years. And yeah, we really appreciate your time, man. And I wish you guys, you all the best success with Sync Gems and obviously with your sync career. And yeah, just keep up the great work, man. You're doing everything right, obviously.
Hell yeah, buddy.